Let me set the scene. My grandma's property sat about 2 miles down the road from her house way out in the country. That's where you enter the first gate by the road, to start up the extremely narrow dirt road up the mountain. It kind of winds up the side of the mountain until you get to the top, about a 15-minute drive. At the top it's all fenced in. It's a big area with a field at the very bottom. It's on top of a mountain so it slopes up. That field is fenced in with a wooden fence. Trees outline the field at the bottom of it and they are very thick and covered in bush. On the field's far right side there is a coral and very old barn. Up from the field is kind of a open logged area where the road comes through. A block foundation where my grandpa had began to build another cabin, and a really shitty cabin. It was all one room and made of plywood or something. It had one window in the very front, facing away from the field, looking toward the top of the mountain, where there was thin forest. The mountain apexed here and the fence went on down the hill until it stopped and became thick brush forest like the bottom of the field on the other side. It was an extremely large fenced-in area and the thin forest stretched on forever. You couldn't see one side of the fence from the other in any direction. I'm just guessing, but I'd say 50 acres or more of mountain top. They kept it to keep their cows in the pasture field area, which was large but surrounded by trees and a wooden fence. It was surrounded by trees in the form of a G. And the little circle inside the G was sort of a sinkhole that you couldn't see from the main dirt road. Now that you have an idea of how the area looked, I'll get on with what I have to say. My grandpa died of lung cancer. My grandma, as hardworking as she is really small and able to only tend her yard and garden. So someone had to feed the cows and check on them. I usually drove down after work, checked on her and then drove up there, grabbed some feed from the barn and feed the cows. One night I got off work a little late and it was getting dark, so I drove straight up to the mountain. When I got to the top to get out and open the gate into the area, I heard a cow mooing really loud. I didn't think anything of it since they usually did this, but this was really loud and sounded off. When I pulled up to the pasture, the cows were nowhere to be seen, which was weird because they usually came hauling ass when they heard me coming. I put the feed in the trough and hollered for them, but they didn't come. I figured they were just in the non-visible area of the field. They remember the G shape, but I had to go check. I went to my truck and grabbed a flashlight since it was getting dark and it was a large field. As I walked down to where I thought they were, I kept hearing that loud moo. That sounded weird coming from different directions, but it didn't deter my path since I was sure they were in that part of the field. I rounded the corner and down in the sinkhole they were all standing there huddled up quite. As I walked up to them I tried to shoo them to the barn, but they wouldn't budge, and that's when I heard another moo from the woods at the top of the sinkhole. I thought one had gotten out of the fence and was in distress. I wasn't really freaked out at this point, so I decided to investigate and retrieve the cow. I didn't do a head count because I didn't really know how many they had. So I walked up the hill of the sinkhole where I thought the moo came from, but around the time I got to the top I heard it again coming from another side of the field. I walked over, hoped the fence, and shined my light through the dense woods. I was shaky from being in the woods during the dark, but not really scared. I walked back a bit in the woods and saw it, the cow standing in a little clearing facing away from me. Black and white, looked like a cow, but it was sitting down like a dog and looked sickly. You've seen a cow that was skinny? I thought it might have hurt its back legs or something, so I strolled up to it, then noticed something as I got closer. Its hooves weren't hooves, it had hands on its front legs, long thin fingers with fleshy brittle looking fingernails. Not being able to explain what I had saw, I called out to it in hopes it was just the dark fucking with me. Sweet cafe or come eat. At that point, about 20 yards from me in the clearing, the thing stood up on two legs and turned around. Its skin was colored like a black and white cow, but its body was nothing like it. It was tall and thin with a strange flat face, large mouth, and sunken in dark eyes. I hauled ass out of the woods, tripping and stumbling over everything, my heart pumping so hard I couldn't hear anything else. When I got to the fence, I leaped straight over it and sprinted through the field to my truck. I got in, locked the doors, started the truck and grabbed my .380 compact from the glove box. I backed my truck down most of the thin dirt road until I got to the gate. I turned around on a steep hill, almost flipping my truck, now facing the gate. I looked around my truck with the flashlight. I hurried and got out to unlatch the gate and swing it wide open, and on the short way back to my truck just inside the forest beside me, I hear, "Suee gaffer, come eat." I got in my truck and scrambled down the mountain without closing the gate. Then after what seemed like 200, I arrived 2 miles away at my grandma's house. I told her everything and she just sat there calmly and said, "Sounds like a trickster." I took this as her saying it was someone playing a joke on me and angrily left. I learned later that local Indians called shapeshifters/skinwalkers tricksters. She sold the cows, then the land, and I never returned. Try to pretend it didn't happen. I've saw a ghost before and had a friend with me that also saw this. I don't know what to make of that thing though. On the short way back to my truck just inside the forest beside me, I hear, "Suee kaffir, come eat." Too spooky for me. How did the Suee cafe or come eat sound coming from that thing? Human but raspy like lung cancer. Yeah, what's weird is that the next day I was going back to my grandma's to tell her I wasn't going up there again, fucking obviously, and this blocked her road. It was a hour trip around it. So I went home. This is what the landscape looks like around the place it happened, to give you an idea. It's not looking in the direction of the property at all though.